Hello, I'm filming today a video about the trip that I've just taken to Florida. Actually, I haven't just taken it, I actually went at the end of August, beginning of September 2022, but this is the first time I've had a chance to kind of sit down and just film and talk about it, and I just thought I would give you some of my opinions on the things that we did there. It's not my first time going to Florida. I've actually been going since I was 7, so for the last sort of 31 years, and I travelled with my little boy who is 7. So I booked the holiday through Virgin, and because there's actually a Virgin travel agent near to where I am, I actually went in and booked it face to face, and it was the same price as booking it online. Apart from the fact that I had to pay £25, I don't think it was an admin fee, but kind of like a booking fee. And the lady said, you know, if there's a problem or you need to speak to anybody, if you're trying to ring Virgin, you might be on the phone for quite a long time, whereas here you can just kind of pop in and talk to us. As it happened, I didn't actually need to speak to them about anything, so that's kind of, you know, it would be up to you whether you wanted to book it in person or book it over the phone. So I booked to go the last week of August running into the first week of September, because it was quite a cheap time to go, and I believe the holiday itself was £1,700 for me and my little boy, and that was for 8 nights at Disney's All-Star Music. I was quite hesitant to book that week because of the weather. I do not like hot weather. I don't get on with it, so I was quite hesitant to book it, but with the price compared to any of the weeks that I looked at going, it was a no-brainer. I had to take it. So I just thought we would deal with the weather while we were there by maybe having breaks during the day and going back to the hotel. So we travelled up to Heathrow from Devon, and we stayed in the Ibis Styles at Heathrow. Now, when we got to Heathrow, because we got a coach up to Heathrow Airport, initially I got quoted £80 for a taxi from Heathrow to the airport and then back again the next day, which didn't sit well with me. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna risk this. And because we were getting there at like 5 in the afternoon, I thought I'd get there and see what the deal was, because I had to look at the hopper buses. The hopper buses, once we eventually found where they were, which isn't easy, they're kind of down in almost like a parking area and underground. It's odd. Once we found them, they were not very frequent at all. I think when we arrived, there was going to be an hour wait for a hopper bus, and one pulled up and I kind of just got on, and it wasn't very busy, and I just kind of said, you know, we need to go to Ibis Styles. Do you know which bus we need to get on? Because no one's turning up. And he was like, do you know what, just get on and I'll drop you there because I'm going past it. So that was really, really nice of him. So that cost us £6, which was fine, but we did have to cross over quite a busy road, almost like a dual carriageway. The next morning, however, I went on my Uber and I looked for a taxi, and it was £12. So for all the hassle of trying to get the hopper bus, which I think sometimes they turn up, sometimes they don't, is the impression that I got. We just jumped in an Uber, and you know what, it cost £12. We were there in 5 minutes. He dropped us right where we needed to be. So that in future, that is exactly what I would do again. I would honestly just go and pay for an Uber. Virgin check-in was really good, quite quick, very friendly. The flight was also, it was really good. What I will say is that they have definitely downsized their portions. We flew with Virgin the last time we went a few years ago, and the portion sizes were definitely a lot more generous than what they are now. We picked up a few snacks at the airport, but we didn't really pick up a lot. And we were like 3 hours away from landing, and my little boy was hungry. I was okay, but he was kind of hungry. And the only things you can buy on the plane are a £2 small pot of Pringles, or I think some sort of little like gifty confectionery box. So it wasn't great. So next time we will definitely be buying more food to take on the plane. The food itself was okay, but not fantastic. I mean, for me it was okay, but for children, there was just some odd things that I probably wouldn't even eat myself. There was like a flapjack, like elderflower flapjack, and if you've got fussy children, fussy eaters, it's probably not going to be fantastic. So like I said, definitely stock up on some snacks to take with you. The TV selection was okay, wasn't fantastic. I think my little boy rewatched quite a few things over and over again. He did have his tablet actually. I took it just in case, but he didn't really use it. But I don't think I really watched much. It wasn't a great selection, but I know that they obviously change up what they show quite a lot. So the airport was fine. I don't think it took very long to get through customs. Just the usual standards, maybe like an hour or so. What I do want to touch on is Mia's transportation. Now, I've been watching vlogs where they say, oh, you know, it's where the Magical Express used to be, so just head down that way. With Virgin, and I'm not sure if this is with everybody, it's not in where the Magical Express used to be. It's over the other side of the airport. This is probably my fault because I didn't read the paperwork properly. I headed down to where I knew Magical Express was. And we got down there and the lady looked at our paperwork. She's like, you're in the wrong place. You need to go all the way back over to the other side of the airport. So once you step off the monorail between the terminals, you don't bear right and go down the escalators. You actually bear left and go underneath the hotel. And then you go down a floor. And then as you're walking, it's almost like the two sides of the airport they're similar. They're like they look exactly the same. So you'll go walking down the same sort of looking terminal baggage collection area, and Virgin are then on the left, and there's like a desk. And so when we got there, we were quite late. Also, wasn't a coach. It was a little minibus with two other families in. It was very hot, it was very stuffy, and the driver was blasting rock music. It wasn't a great experience. It really put me off booking with Virgin again, or using Mia's transportation again. I think next time I would probably look at the Sunshine Flyer and leave the Mia's transportation. So then we went and we checked into All Star Music, and I do not have anything bad to say about All Star Music. I was kind of worried to start with because so many people online slate the value resorts, and you know, they were saying, oh, you know, they don't do this, they don't clean the rooms, you know, you get what you pay for. I thought it was amazing. I am staying there again actually. I'm going on another trip in January. And I always said that I would always try different resorts, but I loved it so much that I am going back again very soon. The check-in was brilliant. The staff are lovely. The room, and loads of people online ask about the room. We loved it. The bed is very high. Just bear that in mind if you have mobility issues. The bed is I'm 5'1", so it's hard for me anyway. My little boy was 7, but the beds were so high off the floor, so that you can store your luggage underneath. The wardrobe is very tiny, very small, so that's another thing to bear in mind. They come with an ironing board, an iron, and a hairdryer. What was the other thing? The safe is brilliant, really good, really easy to use, lots of room in it. You've got plugs, sockets, and also you have USB sockets, which I didn't realise, and I took so much stuff that I didn't need to take. like USB plugs, like special ones. You don't need to take them because they're all over the room. You get a lot of towels. My towels were replaced at least every other day. I've heard people saying online that their towels weren't replaced and that their beds weren't changed. I think our beds were changed a couple of times in the 8 days when we were there, but I mean, unless you're really, really filthy, I mean, you don't need your bedding changed every single day. What else was brilliant about it? The pool was so much fun. My little boy, I think that was my little boy's favourite thing about the entire holiday was the pool. There was such a great atmosphere every single day. And we did take a walk over to sports and movies, and they just didn't seem to have the same kind of atmosphere. Music was just buzzing all day long, and they had entertainment for the kids, which was awesome. The lifeguards, Disney lifeguards, are on another level. I have never seen such. They're just on the ball constantly. I did not worry for 1 second about any accidents happening because those Disney lifeguards they're on their game. They are awesome. The arcades were a lot of fun. You do buy when you're there. There's like some machines on the wall, and you pay for a card which looks like this. And then you top this up with money, and then you swipe this in the machines to play the games, which I thought was really good. They're not cheap, and it's not like, obviously here in England, we had to be fair, the machines are the exact same ones that we've got here in Tenpin in England, but you win tickets, and you don't win tickets in these machines, you are just playing for fun. You do, however, have the little glabby claw machines where you can win like little rubber ducks, which is quite cute, and we got 5 of those, which is a nice little souvenir to bring back. The food court was awesome. The staff is so nice, and the food is incredible. Very, very big portions. I made the mistake of buying an adult meal the first night that I was there, and I couldn't finish it. What me and my little boy did, and we pretty much had this same meal every single day, which is the chicken strips, which I think are very popular because a few times when we went there, they were struggling to keep up with the orders. We bought an adult's chicken strip meal, which we then split between the 2 of us. I think you got 6 chicken strips. So we had 3 each, and we split the fries, and that was enough for us. And I think that meal was, it was like $10 or something, between $10 and $12. The refillable mug is definitely worth it. Wasn't something I ever planned on buying, but that was really, really good. You've also got a water fountain as well, because we actually used, we had these foldable water bottles that we took to the parks, so we would always go in, and my little boy only drinks water anyway, so we would fill these up with water before we headed out to the parks. The food court can get long queues at breakfast time and late at night, so kind of between 6 and 7 and around 9 o'clock at night it tend to get quite busy, so maybe just bear that in mind and utilize the mobile order. I never actually used the mobile ordering whilst I was there, but I have seen people say use that, and obviously it will be a lot quicker. The transport, the buses from All Star Music, again, people kind of always slate the Value Resort, saying that, oh, you know, you're the last to be dropped off and you're the last to be picked up. We never had any issues. There was always a bus coming. I think there was one day where we wanted to get to Hollywood Studios early entry and it hadn't turned up, and at that point the queue was starting to form, and because we didn't have Genie Plus for that day, I really wanted to get there early, so we called an Uber. It wasn't a big deal. The only issue is Disney Springs. I'm not a massive fan of Disney Springs anyway, but getting a bus to Disney Springs is quite difficult. I don't even think we managed to get one, to be honest. I think we Ubered it every single time. It's also quite far away as well, but they just didn't turn up. And when they did turn up, they were packed. So if you have dining reservations at Disney Springs, I would definitely maybe look at getting an Uber just in case. The other thing about Disney Springs and transport, you are the bus stop furthest away at Disney Springs. You really are, and it's quite far for little children. We walked there one evening to get the bus back, and there was a massive queue. The bus hadn't turned up. There was no signs of one turning up either. So I kind of said, let's go and get an Uber. What I didn't know at this time is that there is a designated Uber spot in Disney Springs, and it is completely over the other side of the complex. So it's the total opposite side to where the buses are. It is right past Rainforest Cafe and Goofy's Candy Company and the Christmas shop, I think. You go past those and there's almost like, it's quite hidden, but there's almost like a walkway that you go through, and it's just like a strip of road, and this is where the Ubers and taxis pick you up. And I would not have known this if I hadn't have found someone to ask. So just bear in mind, if it's the end of a long day, you don't want to bother with buses and you're going back to a Safari Resort, I would definitely walk over to the other side and get an Uber. So much quicker and easier. Okay, so first park I want to talk about is Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom was never my favourite park. I think it might be my favourite park now. I don't know whether it's because when I went back in 2018, it was just so manically busy. And this time, with it maybe being kind of end of season, it was a little bit more quiet, and I actually kind of liked it. We utilised the early entry. Every single day that we could, we used the early entry, which I think is why I managed to get away with only using Genie Plus a couple of days. We'll just touch on Genie Plus. I think I used it for 3 days. It's worth it, but I think if you utilise that early entry for the parks, that's a lot more useful than using Genie Plus and paying for Genie Plus. I used it a couple of times, but mainly because my little boy was with me. If I was on my own, I probably wouldn't bother because I'm okay with queuing. But yeah, use that early entry. When you get into Magic Kingdom for early entry, you only are allowed in certain areas, which I didn't know. So I had this whole plan to what I was going to do with my early entry. And as it turns out, you can only actually get into Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, which I didn't realise. So we turned up for early entry. We managed to do Peter Pan's flight, and I think that was it really. We managed to do Peter Pan's flight. We were going to do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, but everybody was rushing for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and I'm not the type of person, I can't fight my way through a queue. It just doesn't feel human. So when by the time we got there, the queue is massive, and I said to my little boy, because he really wanted to do it, it's one of his favourite rides, I said I will pay for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which I did end up paying for. So we went and did Peter Pan's flight. I think we then did It's a Small World, because what I wanted to do was go into Frontierland and do Big Thunder and Splash Mountain. So we hung around until that opened, and then we basically made a beeline for Big Thunder. We did Haunted Mansion on the way, and then we did Big Thunder and Splash Mountain. And at this time it was only 9 o'clock, or 9:30. So we still managed to do quite a lot. And then we walked straight on to Pirates of the Caribbean. So we did manage to do quite a lot by using that early entry, because we were already at the back of the park. So it's still worth getting there, in my opinion, early on. Magic Kingdom, what else can I say? The cheeseburger rolls are very overrated, in my opinion. We paid $9 something for these teeny little cheeseburger spring rolls, which everyone raves about, and there was a queue for, and the people at the cart had to keep going and making some more, and then we were waiting again for them. They're not worth it. They're really not. They're nothing special. You could probably make them yourself at home. One thing that's underrated, in my opinion, is PhilharMagic. that, I absolutely love that show, and I do that every single time I go. Really, really worth it. So if it's something that you normally overlook, I would definitely give that a go. That's probably one of my favourite things about Magic Kingdom. Epcot. So once again, sorry, that's my cat. Once again, we used early entry for Epcot. We were made a beeline for Test Track, and once we got there, she said, oh, it's delayed, it's not opening. So we headed over to Soarin', and then we went back over to Test Track. So again, like, if you're planning a day, just bear in mind that some things might not be opening for that early entry. We did Guardians of the Galaxy, which I got a virtual queue for, and I would say, because I obviously hadn't been on the ride, didn't know what it was all about. It was one of the first rides that my 7-year-old went on, and he was terrified. It's very fast, it's very dark. If your children don't like Rock and Roller Coaster, they're probably not going to like Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was amazing because I love Marvel, but yeah, my little boy was absolutely terrified, and it almost put him off going on a lot more other things. He did not want to go on that again. So just bear in mind, if you haven't been on Guardians of the Galaxy before, it's very, very fast and very dark and very loud as well. We also, when we were in Epcot, walked to the boardwalk from there to have a look around. I've never had a look around the boardwalk before, so that's another thing that you can do. You can also get early entry in, I believe, from that side as well. That's another thing that we did, because we were trying to go for Ratatouille, which unfortunately it was our last ride, and it's the only ride we didn't get to do because it had broken down. So if you're heading for Ratatouille, I think a lot of people go for the boardwalk entry and try to do that one first. Hollywood Studios early entry, 100% worth it. If you're going to do Hollywood Studios and you don't have Genie Plus, get there for early entry. Seriously, get there for, I think we got there for 10 to 7. We got there pretty early. We made a beeline for Slinky Dog, which I believe is probably what everyone does. And we rode it 3 times in a row with no wait. So you need to go for that early entry. I paid for Ride of the Resistance because that's the only thing that we wouldn't have been able to go on else, and we wanted to do it twice. So we did pay for that, but like I said, I wasn't paying for Genie Plus, so it kind of evened out a little bit. Another ride which I think is quite underrated is Star Tours. We went on that twice. My little boy loved it. I loved it as well. Such a good classic ride. And there was a couple of American girls on the first time we went, and they were also buzzing about it and saying how amazing it is. So if, like, again, my little boy is 7, so again, that's another one you want to have a look at. Sci-Fi Diner was a dining reservation that I made before we went out, and we I mean, as an adult, I probably would have been all right with it. They show movies on a screen, and so it's like a drive-in theatre. I don't know if they change up what they're showing on the screen on certain days. It just so happened when we were in there, they were showing old school sci-fi films or clips of films. They were pretty scary. I think when we walked in, they were showing a cartoon, which was fine. My little boy was cool. And then they started showing this really gruesome sci-fi, almost like people with like disfigured faces and things. And my little boy was terrified. And the food was taking forever. And he was like, please can we leave? Please can we leave? I don't like it. I don't like it. I spoke to somebody in there and I said, look, like, is it okay? Like, I know we've ordered the food. Like, I will pay for the food, but we are going to have to leave because my little boy just doesn't like what's being shown on the screen. As always with Disney, they were brilliant. She was like, we will get your food to go. So bless them. They put our food in little takeaway boxes. And we left. And we went and sat outside Pizza Rizzo, I think it's called. There's like an outdoor seating area, and we ate our food out of a box there. As always, the staff are amazing. They're always amazing. But just be, again, another warning, if you have easily scared little children with scary horror things, Sci-Fi Diner might not be the best idea. The meet and greet, we did Sully, and we did Star Wars. So we did Chewbacca and BB-8. The queues were quite long. They're also quite boring queues, so they're not very immersive. So my little boy was getting a little bit antsy as we were queuing up. He still loved it though. The Star Wars characters, particularly BB-8, very cute. I'd head there first thing in the morning, like I said, because if the queues are long, they can be quite boring. But if you get there early, I think we were queuing about 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes for Chewbacca, and BB-8 was a walk-in. Sully was about 5 minutes. So, you know, you get there early and utilize that early entry. That's one of the things you can do. Yeah. Another one I would recommend, Toy Story Mania, I think is an underrated ride. That is so much fun. I think that's probably my favourite ride out of Hollywood Studios. So much fun. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is amazing. You definitely need to spend a couple of hours there, and I'd also get some food whilst you're there as well. We ate in Docking Bay 7, and it's really, really good. Like, the whole theming is amazing. Animal Kingdom, again, used early entry. I paid for Flight of Passage. We did Flight of Passage 3 times because it's my little boy's favourite ride. So the first time I paid for it because I was expecting long queues. The second time was the second day that we went there, and for some reason there was no queue, so we walked on, and then I paid for it again because he really wanted to do it before we left. So if you get, I think the short queue for Flight of Passage was about, I think it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So there are times of the day where that Flight of Passage queue goes down. You just got the long trek of a walk to the actual ride itself. I mean, what is that, like a 15-minute walk? Kilimanjaro Safaris is my least favourite attraction. That's probably not a very popular opinion. It breaks my back. And I you know, I'm not old, I'm not, you know, like past it, but my God, my back when I get off of that ride, I can barely walk. It's just very rough. I don't think my little boy was that enamoured by it either. So just bear in mind, again, if you've got back issues, I know a lot of the other rides probably warn about back issues, but Kilimanjaro Safaris is rough on your back. Something else that I would highly recommend is the bird show, and I can't remember what it's called. Is it Feathered Friends in Flight, or is it Up a bird show? I feel like it's Feathered Friends in Flight. Really, really good show. We unfortunately got there a few minutes late, but it was so much fun, and my little boy did ask if we could do it again, but unfortunately we just ran out of time. But it was really, really good. Some really amazing birds there, so I highly recommend that one. So our dining reservation for Animal Kingdom was Tusker House. Oh my God, I can't even, it's so expensive, but so good. I think it was £100 for the two of us. The food, the atmosphere, the staff are amazing as well. The only thing was that there was no Minnie, which was a little bit disappointing. The others were there, but not Minnie. But my little boy loved it. It's the first time that he met the characters properly. The food was awesome. I was a little bit worried about, because the spices and stuff, but it was so nice. So there was like some sort of bread and dips and hummus, and then the mains was all meat. So you had this really amazing chicken, some steak, macaroni and cheese, which we all know American macaroni and cheese is the best. There was some sort of prawn curry, which was spicy but not massively spicy. And then the desserts, there was like 3 individual desserts. Like I said, it was expensive. It was £100, but it was the only, apart from Sci-Fi Diner, which is obviously you pay for what you order, but this was family style dining where they bring the food out to you And honestly, it was amazing. It was so good. If you know, if I have the money there, I would definitely do it again. I know there's others that you can do, but I'd highly recommend Tusker House. Really loud, but if you've got children, they like that kind of, you know, it's very fun. There's dancing and the characters. It's really, really good. What else? Oh, another thing about Disney Spring that I think is overrated is Blaze Pizza. And I know that everybody raves about it. We went and had lunch there on the day that we were in Disney Springs, and I don't rate it at all. I think it was over $20 for the two of us, and we only had a pizza to share as well. And we had a pizza to share and 2 drinks. We queued for, I'm gonna say, half an hour. The queue is out the door to get in. So I was quite excited because I thought, you know, everyone always raves about this place. The queue's out the door, it must be amazing. I reckon that the thin base pizzas in Asda are probably better than the ones in Blaze Pizza. I don't get the hype. I won't be going again. I just think it's really overrated, and I don't really understand the hype behind that one. Travelling home. Bell services, use them if you're going on a late checkout. We were being picked up at 1, and we left our luggage with Bell services whilst we used the pool in the morning. Bell services and music was honestly awesome. So great, so easy. The Mears bus, the Mears minibus was late by nearly an hour. So I was starting to panic quite a little bit because, you know, we had a flight to catch, and I know they pick you up in plenty of time, but the fact that it just hadn't turned up, I couldn't get hold of anyone at Virgin. Eventually a lady came out of the lobby at music and said, oh, are you happen to be waiting for this Mia's bus? And I was like, yes. And she was like, so am I. So, oh, thank God, there's at least another person here. He eventually turned up an hour late with not enough seats for everybody that he was picking up. We were the last stop. So one woman in the minibus had to travel to the airport with her little girl sat on her lap because there was not enough seats in the minibus. Again, I did complain to Virgin about this because if that was me having to sit with my child on my lap, I would not be happy. They never got back to me, but again, I will not be using Mears again. And Interstellar News, and we got a few snacks from there. Obviously it's expensive, but like I said, there's no restaurants that you can really go in to get anything before you get on the plane. The food on the way home, this sounds like such a complaining video now. The food on the way home from Virgin was terrible. Like I said, the portion sizes are small, but also it was really the stuff they had for kids. Just odd, really odd stuff that a kid's just not going to want. I think Corey had some sort of cheese and herb sandwich, cream cheese spread with like herbs in it, and he was just like, I am not eating that. I mean, you know, just, yeah, so bear that in mind if you're flying with Virgin. Once we landed in Heathrow, as everyone knows, you land there in the morning because it's a night flight. Always the worst, night flights. The queues for customs at Heathrow were an hour long. It was not fun. So, you know, again, depending on when you travel, this was beginning of September, so maybe it was a busy time. So yeah, that kind of wraps it up. Just the last few points that I really want to say. Use that early entry for the parks. Have your break in the middle of the day if you're staying on Disney. That is what we did every single day. We left the parks at lunchtime when it was mega hot. We went back to the pool. Obviously in August, early September, it was 34 degrees. I was worried about the heat. I am not worried about the heat going in that sort of time of year. Again, it was absolutely fine. And I don't like hot weather. It was fine. You leave the parks at lunch, get back to your hotel, go in the pool. Once you're in that swimming pool, it doesn't feel like 34 degrees. It feels really nice. And then we headed back to we had some tea at the resort, and then we headed back into the parks 4 or 5ish. Brilliant day. Honestly, if you can go at a cheap time of year when it's really hot and no one else wants to go, use that time for a cheap Disney holiday when it's hot and no one else wants to go, because you can work around that heat. Another thing that I will say about the time of year that we went was the love bugs. And I have been to Florida before, I think in May when they're around. They're around a lot, but for some reason on our very, very last day when we were sat around the pool, they were everywhere and we couldn't get rid of them. It got to the point where we just ended up leaving the pool and going and getting ready to leave to the airport because we just couldn't really tolerate them anymore. So if you don't like bugs, I'm pretty sure it's May, but also September, end of August, September, there was a lot of those bugs everywhere. They were always around our door going into our room. I mean, it didn't bother me personally, just when you're sat around the pool and they're landing on you every 10 seconds, that can be a little bit unbearable. Another thing, if you like Disney popcorn is my favourite, and if you're from the UK, you probably know that you can't get butter popcorn here, or you used to be able to, you definitely can't get it anymore. If you go to Walmart sell so many different types of popcorn, butter popcorn, and it tastes near on identical to the Disney popcorn. I unfortunately only brought one box back, and now I wish I'd have brought more because it's absolutely the best popcorn ever. Another thing about going at that last week of August, beginning with September, was the crowd levels were really, really low. Again, I think that's another reason why I didn't bother with just Disney Genie Plus for most of the days that I was there, is just because the crowd levels were so low anyway. So definitely looking at that last week of August if you want like a low crowd level. The one last thing that I want to say is, if you fancy a break from Disney, definitely take a trip to Gatorland. I first went to Gatorland when I was 7, so I've been a couple of times. And my little boy, it was just really nice to get out of Disney for the day. From Music to Gatorland, I believe it's about a 25-minute journey. Probably cost about $40 to $40 maybe. It's not cheap if you're having a day out away from Disney, because obviously you're paying extra for it, but it's a nice day out. I love alligators, they're my favourite animal. And my little boy loved it as well, just to get out and see some different animals. They have a couple of shows that they've got photo opportunities, they've got birds that you can feed, reptiles. It was just a really nice day out, and it's nostalgic for me because, like I said, I first went when I was a kid, so I always like going back there. So yeah, that kind of wraps it up really, and I hope that if you watch this you get a little bit of idea of what it's like traveling to Florida with children, and I hope there was some tips in there that maybe you might not know about. I'm planning on heading out again in January, but it's going to be a solo trip for me this time because I think my little boy's kind of Disneyed out. So yeah, thank you for watching.